Have you found yourself struggling to communicate in a foreign country? If so, you're not alone. I honestly had to struggle with that when I moved to Costa Rica. And so I was able to find some techniques that actually helped me along my journey to actually be able to learn the language quickly in a matter of months to become fluent. And so if you want to know my strategies and my tips, I want you to stay tuned to the very end because there's a lot that we need to cover and I want to get into it. So let's get into it. So, hi, my name is Keenan Slade, and I help good guys find a great life outside the United States. And so, if you're looking at destinations like Costa Rica, Central America, or any other destination, and you're trying to figure out how do I do that, then do you want to watch this video? So let's jump into it. So the first thing when you're in another country and you're trying to learn the language, the best thing that you can do is actually to get out of your comfort zone. And that may sound strange, but there's nothing that you can do and grow in your comfort zone. Your comfort zone kind of limits you. And if you don't actually get out of your comfort zone, then you're not going to be able to learn the language. And part of that is actually immersing yourself with different people. I know it feels safe and comfortable to hang around expats and English-speaking people or natives, but the problem is that your Spanish doesn't grow. And if your Spanish doesn't grow, or your language of choice or wherever you're at, it doesn't actually have to be Spanish, because if you're not landing in here in Costa Rica, it's going to be something else. But if that doesn't grow, then you never are able to actually get a part of the culture, the community, to actually experience new things. You're always kind of living your life on the outside. And so in order to avoid doing that, you're going to actually have to move out of your comfort zone. And if you're going to move out of your comfort zone, I know it feels more comfortable to be with apps, and apps are okay. Honestly, I'm not a huge fan of a lot of apps. And it actually depends on where you're going. If you end up in Mexico and you get most of your apps in the United States are going to be to go to Mexico. But just like English is not English, whether you're up north or down south, people are going to say different colloquialisms that are going to be like, I don't even know what this person's talking about. Or if you're in, Britain or United States, there's going to be complete, sentences that don't actually make sense. The same thing happens with Spanish. When you're learning Spanish or French or German or wherever you're going to go, you want to be able to speak with natives, because you want someone to say, yeah, you could say it that way. We probably would understand you, but we don't say that, And for a good example, it's here in Costa Rica, the word for welcome is con gusto, well, two words to be honest, but it's con gusto. But normally, if you're learning any, Spanish app is de nada. And yeah, people understand it here, but that's not generally what they say. And so to be able to, figure those things out, you want to actually be able to pull yourself out of the comfort zone. With that, and the same thing happens in English. It's kind of funny when we're learning new languages, like we don't think that, just because it happens in English, or we don't actually pay attention, but it happens all the time in English. For example, I could say, I want to go to the store. Would you like to come? Or I could say, I'm going to the store. You're coming. And depending on where you're at, yeah, it's maybe not perfect, but everybody doesn't talk like that. And so you don't want to be completely lost just because someone doesn't talk, the proper way or the textbook way. You want people to talk the natural way. The other thing, as far as, Costa Rica and other places, is just like United States. We have a lot of different sayings. And so in the United States, we say stuff like, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Well, no matter how you translate that or put it in Google or use your apps, that's just not going to translate well, because they don't use that saying here, and maybe they don't use that saying in wherever else you're going to go. And so you want to be, get out of your comfort zone to be able to do that. So yeah, apps may seem comfortable and they make you feel warm and snuggy because you got the 100 points, you got the Bell Apple stars, whatever it is. But the real learning of a language is actually going to be through immersion and talking to people. And so if you're liking that tip, see what I did there? Liking, no G, can't translate that. But if you like that tip, you want to actually stay to the very end, because I have some very crucial tips that will actually help you in your journey. So let's get into it. So number 2, don't be afraid to make mistakes. And this is a big one because if you're anything like me, I'm a scientist, I'm technically a physicist. I moved to IT and I excelled in my field. I've been in corporate America. I've talked to bosses and CEOs, and you start to get to a certain point in your life, especially around my age, around 40, you're like, oh, I'm doing good. Everything is great. I know it all. And then you come to another country and you sound like a first grader. It's like, you're like, I don't want to talk because I don't want to make mistakes. And honestly, the truth is, even places like Costa Rica, where I don't know, a lot of people from the United States just assume that people all over the world are speaking one language is English. No, that's not true. Even when they can speak English, they actually suffer from the same thing. They're like, yeah, I can speak English, but they're scared to make mistakes, so they pretend like they don't speak English. So a lot of them are knowledgeable, but you'll never know which are speaking Spanish and they can speak Spanish, and those who can speak English and Spanish but are scared to speak. Well, they have the same fear. So if everybody's sitting in the same fear, then there's no connection. And so you have to be willing to actually make mistakes so that you can grow on your journey in learning how to learn a language. And this actually will help you with your time, because if you're always trying to be perfect and not willing to stumble over the words, then you're not going to practice as much. You're not going to say the words. You're not going to be corrected. And so you're not going to be able to learn the language in a few months because you're going to be wasting so much time. Like, I'm not going to say this phrase or this word until I get it correct. And that is not what you want to do. So you want to actually be able to take the time, make mistakes, and grow apart on your journey. Another thing about making mistakes is that you don't know how much is appreciated by the locals. When you're trying to do it versus just sitting there, I'm going to talk English because I'm from the United States and you should know English in your country. When you are trying to speak the language, it actually goes a long way with the locals. Even if you don't conjugate well or change the verbs or wherever you're at and whatever their rules in their language, you're not doing it correctly. People, like that you're attempting to try. And honestly, I found that it gives them courage, because when you're trying, maybe they'll try. It's like, well, I know this English word. Let me just throw it. I don't know the sentence. And so they're trying. So when they see you try and maybe you're making mistakes, that gives them a confidence. So your confidence of willing to make mistakes is actually going to help them in their confidence. And that might, I don't know, create a relationship here. You never know. So if this is something you actually struggle with, whether you're already in the country or if you're thinking about going to the country, but you're like, I don't want to go because I'm scared. I don't know the language. I love everything about the culture. I love the food. I love the beaches, but I don't know the language of the land. Well, I want you to click the link below because I got some stuff that will actually help you along your journey. Another important thing that will actually help you is to practice daily. I know living in a foreign country, it's easy not to practice daily. Whether you think it or not, it's easy to get Netflix all around the world, so you don't have to watch the stuff in, the local language. You can watch, your programs in English because it's so easy and comfortable. The pool depends on the type of people that you have in your house, of going back to English and making it easy is there, because in your house you're speaking English, which is probably a mistake. When there's time to watch movies together, you're going to go back to English, which is probably a mistake. And so the music that you listen to is English. And so, yes, you can balance. I'm not saying just go full tilt one way or the other, but you want to balance it out where you're maybe taking days where you're just watching TV in Spanish, and the next day, maybe the radio or the music, Spotify, whatever you listen to, is Spanish music that you like. And you want to actually take some time every single day to be practicing Spanish. And so whether that means you're going to the grocery store, instead of just pointing, be able to figure out the sentence that you need to say, what is this? What is that? What are those? You want to be able to have that interaction, because the more that you repeat, especially the common phrases like going to the bank and paying bills or whatever it is, the common things that you're going to have to get over, the hurdles, you'll start to feel more comfortable. And throw that one back there because you're moving out of your comfort zone. But because you're getting comfortable because you are practicing every day. And it really does make a big difference when you're practicing. So I have a question for you. What is your biggest fear about stepping outside of your comfort zone? Share in the comments below and we can talk about ways that maybe you can overcome it to actually get to the dreams that you desire. Let's get into it. So number 4, which was awesome for me, and I definitely do recommend it, is trading the language. yeah, it's good to talk to people one-off, but really when you're actually trading language, finding someone with the same passion to learn English and you're going to trade them another language, it actually works out very good because you're stumbling together, and it's kind of cool because you don't have to be embarrassed. They're here to learn, you're here to learn, and you can develop a friendship because you're taking time, you understand each other's needs of being patient and working through the language. And this is actually good. Yes, you could go to schools, and that is a route for some people. Depends on where your level is. It's actually probably a good route for everybody. But after you get past the basics, you want to be able to trade the language. And you can have this much information and still be valuable because they probably got this much information. And so you're trading and growing. And after a long time, poco a poco, little by little, whatever that time is, and we're talking months here, but after some considerable amount of time, you'll start to get the grasp, you'll start to feel comfortable because you'll start to hear different things. The benefit, and one of the things about trading languages, it gets you over the first initial hump. One of the first initial humps in any language is, it sounds like this. And they say it like 5 words, but you heard one long word. And it's like, you need to be able to train your ear to break up the words. Maybe you use like, hola. At least you got one word. And the next time is, hola, ¿cómo está? Oh, I got 3 words. And so your ear becomes to get trained. And that really can happen really quickly when you're exchanging the language because you're doing a good practice that actually helps you get past your point where you normally get stuck at, especially when you're just writing it. You really need to hear it and you need to speak it. The other benefit of actually having a partner versus having an app or a Google Translate or anything like that is you can ask, did I say that correctly? My partner and I, it's on automatic. So I can say something and I don't have to ask that question anymore because it's automatic. Did I say it correctly is an automatic given. And so unlike Google Translate where you can say stuff in English and you're speaking English and it's like, what did you say? It's like, oh, is it the app or is it me? I don't know. But if you're actually talking to someone, you're like, did I say it correctly? They can be like, no, you didn't. This is how you say it. Or yes, you did, but we don't say it that way. And so you're going to sound weird, like you're not from here, if you don't learn the correct way of saying it. And so you want to say it not just correctly, it's, this is how you say it in a textbook, but correctly, like this is, how we're going to say it today, whatever it is, in the language that you're going to say it in, because it makes you more solidified and it helps you out to get further because you're going to hear that phrase because this is how we say it as a group, as a community, as a country. And so when you're out on the street and because you got out your comfort zone, you're working with a partner, especially a native, and so you're putting it all together, and it quickly makes you not just pick out certain words of the day, especially in apps. I'm not trying to beat up apps, but and if you use apps, it's like, we're going to talk about kitchen stuff. It's like, but I don't really care about kitchen stuff. Yes, it's important, but I'm finding that on the day I hear somebody say something like this on the street and I don't know what it is. And this is the value of actually getting out of your comfort zone, getting yourself out there, working with a partner and asking if it's correct, because you'll know when you start hearing it, oh, that's how you say it. And it has a little accent to it or a twang or something to it. I'm saying it too proper. Yeah. And so those are the things that actually really help you. And then this last tip, I promised you that it was going to be something good. I wanted you guys to wait to the very end, is learn how to tell your story in the other language. And so this is something I honestly found from a guy on a YouTube video like 4 years ago. I wish I knew what the site was. I really would love to give him credit. It was something that helped me a lot because I found that people would say, well, why did you come to Costa Rica? Da, 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 da. How did you get here? What, do you like it? And it was the same story. And I was like, how do I say this in Spanish? And so I started recording myself on the computer, practicing it, then practicing it with my partner, taking it to my partner and saying, hey, how do I say this, the right way? How does this sound? Da, 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 da. And then they correct it. And so now my story, my old story, because it's actually, again, 4 years ago, but my story at the time used the words that I normally use versus, here's a random word that, nobody uses in biblical days or something like that. But here's a story that, I'm going to use. I'm going to pick up new words and I'm going to learn how to say them with the right emphasis and points, because it's something that I get excited about telling my story. This is how I got to Costa Rica. This is how I fire. Those are things that make sense. So like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm a life coach that helps good guys find a great life outside the United States. And these are some of the challenges that a person moving out of the country goes through. And so if you want to know more, you want a tool that actually can help you, I want you guys to click on the link below. I will see you on the other side.